So Ethiopia was naturally organic. And I remember a very nice man from South Africa who said, you guys don't know how lucky you are because we eat everything organic so cheaply. Whilst we in South Africa, to get anything organic, we have to pay almost 3 times the price of anything which is unorganic. So now we see a situation in Ethiopia where fertilization will be needed because the soil is depleted and the soil is dry and the environment is dry. So we will need fertilization and micro irrigation. Now, will these farmers that really live below subsistence level be able to implement these things? Absolutely not. So who will be able to do that? Of course, people with money and people with capacity to influence governments, take big swathes of the land and modernize this land. What will these farmers do? Well, become workers.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop, It's Time to Become a Coffee Consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of a 5-part series, a very, very, very important series on the Daily Coffee Pro podcast for the entire coffee industry. We are talking with Heleanna Georgalis from Moplaco in Ethiopia. It is an export company. And in this series, we've been talking about the situation of coffee in Ethiopia. I really hope by now, folks, that you are starting to understand that this situation is serious. And where I want to start the conversation, today's episode is going to be about Ethiopian coffee on the international market. Where I want to start this conversation, Heleanna, is this situation in Ethiopia with the coffee that has been eroded, the land that has been eroded with eucalyptus and with Khat, is this situation reversible?
Lee, everything is reversible, but it takes time and it can never be restored to its original place. Like you take millions of years to restore something in its original place. It's irreversible when there is a collective decision, a political decision, and a policymaker that enforces change. But it will not happen over 5 years. It will happen over 20 years, this change. Now, the thing is there going to be a political will that can be enforceable for the coming 20 years? You know, very few leaders stay in power for more than 15 or 5 years, okay? So, and the people have to have a mindset to be able to change things. You know, I always want to keep hope because we are not so stupid that we are going to completely self-eliminate each other or ourselves. I really hope to believe that our stupidity doesn't reach that level. Although sometimes I think that, you know, what is happening in the planet, we must be stupid.
Right.
You know, like, we must be completely passive people not to be able to react. You know, and Lee, you always say there are people that react to what we say. Of course, look at Greta Gutenberg. This young girl was at the age of 12 protesting for climate change all alone. She must have looked like a nutcase, yet she created a wave of changes and discussions.
Right.
And this is only one girl. So there is a hope because so many things happened after she started protesting. And I'm not saying that we reversed anything because the power of opposing Greta is much bigger than her own power to oppose them. But we need to keep the hope that some things can change. So we do this podcast to raise awareness. Hopefully some good people will hear it and understand that there is something that we need to take action upon. Reversible, can we recover fully our indigenous forests? Never. I don't think so. This is a nature product, a product by an act of God over millions of years that nature developed in a very specific way. Can we help to restore it? Yes. But it takes a political will, and it cannot happen over a period of 2, 3, or 5 years even. It will take a long time to be able to restore it to nearly as good as its original place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. It's really destructive what is happening, almost irreversibly disrupting. But can we reverse it if we decide to? Not fully, but yes, we can recover a lot of it. Will Ethiopian coffee be the same ever again? No, it won't. This tipping point, we have already bypassed it. There was a tipping point, I believe, before 2 years for Ethiopia. Prices were going up and up and up. Farmers were happy. And it's right, they're justified to be happy when they receive more money for their coffee. But it was not a sustainable thing. And obviously it collapsed. And now farmers are removing the coffee trees, are further deforesting because they don't see the hope in anything that they actually do. They say we take a lot of time to plant coffee trees and then the prices collapse and all the work is gone. So better to plant Khat and eucalyptus that have a stable value for us. They don't depend on the stock market, on the pension funds, on the exporter, on the liquidity of our banks. We are going to be able to sell eucalyptus and Khat anyway. So why take a risk, plant coffee, when after 2 years it's going to collapse? You see? That mentality is very difficult to change. They need to see stability in their efforts. And the farmers in Ethiopia and in many places of the world have not seen stability in their efforts. None of their efforts is properly rewarded. Sorry, Lee, yes.
Okay. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I also don't like drama. But I do have a strange question for you. If we're looking at the long game for this, is there an agenda? Like, let's say all of this goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a big ag agenda here? Potentially. Is there a reason that big ag would then come in and consolidate the land? We've spoken about this with agronomists from Brazil before. Could there be an agenda for, if we're talking about on the global level, could there be an agenda for big agriculture to just let this happen? Because, hear me out, and I'm sure I'm sounding crazy to some people right now. If this is a downward spiral, and from as hopeful as I hear you sounding, I don't actually see how this gets reversed because it doesn't sound like policymakers are motivated to change it. So it sounds like producers are going to end up being out of business, in a polite way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to that land?
Look, Lee, let me answer one by one your question. Is there an agenda? I don't know. Are there people that will benefit out of it? For sure. Always there is people that benefit out of a crisis and out of a misery, the misery of other people, always. And sometimes we remain dumbstruck on how these people can take advantage of this situation. We have seen it now in front of us in Ukraine, let's say, when people were trying to escape and people were abusing these people that were trying to escape, okay? Will there be an opportunistic grabbing of the land when things go down? Of course. That will be their big chance. Now, will big ag benefit from it? In Ethiopia until now, for coffee and for vegetables, we didn't need fertilization. And we didn't need genetically modified crops to survive anything because the land was so fertile. The rain was so good because there were so many forests that were creating enough humidity in the environment for us to have rain, that nobody needed anything. So Ethiopia was naturally organic. And I remember a very nice man from South Africa who said, you guys don't know how lucky you are because we eat everything organic so cheaply, whilst we in South Africa, to get anything organic, we have to pay almost 3 times the price of anything which is unorganic. So now we see a situation in Ethiopia where fertilization will be needed because the soil is depleted and the soil is dry and the environment is dry. So we will need fertilization and micro irrigation. Now, will these farmers that really live below subsistence level be able to implement these things? Absolutely not. So who will be able to do that? Of course, people with money and people with capacity to influence governments, take big swathes of the land and modernize this land. What will these farmers do? Well, become workers at the best case scenario. So I don't want to sound, I have also, let's say, not lost hope, because if you lose hope, you stop working also. But I felt so disappointed and so like, why nobody's reacting to what is happening? Is it because the situation in Ethiopia is so much more important in other issues that nobody has a chance to actually look at this? Or is it because they don't want to look at it? Or is it because there are other interests that make more money out of eucalyptus than in coffee? I'm not sure what it is, Lee. So I feel very disappointed, deeply disappointed, because I love Ethiopian coffee. The potential of Ethiopian coffee is really big, and it could transform, if applied properly, to the lives of farmers. Like, we don't need to export Fiat cars. We need to export Maserati. Ethiopian coffee is the Maserati of the coffee.
Yeah, it's my favorite coffee.
But
I get it.
It's not sold as this Maserati of the coffee. And I remember clearly, I will never forget that when I first started my work, so 17 years ago now, a Japanese trader told me, we all know that Ethiopia coffee is too cheap for the quality it gives. And we take advantage of it. Why? Because nobody in Ethiopia is protecting the interest of Ethiopia. So why should we care? And they're right. Why should they care if we don't care? And we have not been caring for such a long time. And we fail to understand because nobody is there to actually advise anyone or show them with numbers that all of us in this country can make triple the amount of money that we are making for the country, for ourselves, and for the farmers. And then we can preserve something that once it's lost, it's lost.
So tell me, when we look at this on the international scale in relation to other markets, Ethiopia is the 5th largest producer of coffee in the world, but it's the 4th largest producer of Arabica in the world, given that Vietnam mostly does Robusta. Okay. And it's clear by now at this point in this series that Ethiopia, if we're to be conservative, we're saying that a lot of the coffee in Ethiopia has already gone away and it's not coming back. Am I correct?
A lot of lands that really good coffee was cultivated was fully deforested, so the coffee doesn't taste the same until now. Okay?
Right.
Yes, and a lot of coffee has been lost. But what's happening, let me clarify this point, okay?
Please.
For the last so many years, we never had actual data. And it's a very big problem for Ethiopia. Nobody's counting how many trees have been planted, how many trees have been deforested, okay? How much is the actual production and how much is the actual sales in the local market? So data we don't have, proper data we don't have. Okay, so we cannot state exactly how much coffee has been lost, recovered, how much forest has been lost or even recovered. Okay? Yeah, just to clarify that there is no numerical data, scientific data to support anything right now. We are all empirical viewers.
Right. And again, going back to the very first episode of this series, you are a major exporter in this market. You are a major player in this market. You are not pulling this information out of nowhere. This is someone who knows what they're talking about, who is very connected in the whole supply chain. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a company that has a big history, and I am focusing on very good coffee. I have a market with excellent buyers, people that are sophisticated and intellectual, and they have the best interest in their heart to pay fair prices to support the farmers. And these people are aware of the situation, but they are too small to act.
Right. And so the reason I keep reiterating that is because people are going to say things like, it's not as bad as what you guys are saying. Or they'll come up with a million different excuses because it serves their agenda that people don't pay attention to this. So that brings me to my next question. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Look, again, Lee, it happens. We have floods and devastating heat waves and fires for the last 6 years in front of us. How many people say there's no climate change?
Right.
Okay? So there will always be people that oppose your opinion. And that's why I want to say, yes, right now we are expressing an opinion. Okay? An opinion that is empirical in my case. I'm observing, I'm seeing, I'm experiencing, but I don't have any numerical data to back it. And I don't want people to say, yeah, but how many trees have been exactly lost? I don't know how many they are exactly lost, but you are very welcome to join me in Ethiopia. I can take you to a very long trip with me so you can actually see how much land has been dried out and how much coffee has completely disappeared from this land. If you see it with your own eyes, you will understand it. And will you have the data to back it? No, because it's not here. But will you have the eyes to see it? Absolutely, yes.
Well, someone that we both know, who was somebody who first alerted me to this, he said to me he went on an origin trip to Ethiopia and he drove for 2.5 hours before he saw his first coffee tree.
Yeah.
And he said it was nuts because the first time he ever went to Ethiopia, everywhere he looked in this area that he was driving around, he saw coffee trees everywhere. Yeah. And it was 2.5 hours before he saw his first coffee tree. And he said, Lee, it is wild. And I don't know why nobody is talking about this. So that was when I first got alerted to it. And I started doing my research from there. Let
me tell you again, an empirical observation, okay, not backed by data. I came to Ethiopia driving every time from Awassa, which is the major southern city, all the way to Yergachefe, which has one of the most famous coffees, okay? And you could smell coffee husk everywhere, or coffee flowers everywhere, and you could see coffee trees absolutely everywhere. And on the side of the road, you would see after the operation of the washing stations, like heaps of cascara that was drying out, because that's the practice in Ethiopia, to take the cascara on the sides of the road, dry it out, and then farmers can take it for their fields.
Okay.
And you would go all the way to Yergachefe, and during the nighttime, all you could hear is the washing station machines and smell the smell of coffee. For me, it was an amazing experience, actually. The last 5 years you drive, there is no coffee, washing stations have closed down. Along the side of the road, we have become an industry of eucalyptus trees.
Where do they sell them? Where do they sell the eucalyptus to?
Honestly, I wish I knew. There is a company that has opened in the middle of Sidamo, which Sidamo is a traditional coffee area that makes chipwood. Is it a local company or Chinese company? I'm not exactly sure, but I am really surprised at the audacity of putting a factory in the middle of a place that didn't have eucalyptus trees. So it means it encouraged the farmers to start planting eucalyptus because finally they had a very market close to them. From the farmer's point of view, it makes absolutely economic sense for the short term.
Okay? And that's the problem. They're in a cycle that is getting, the cycle is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter because they're in a poverty cycle. They're in an addiction cycle because of the chat.
Yes. Correct. Yes. And at the same time, there is something, and even all the farmers are saying, we are losing our capacity as farmers because there is a generation or young people that they don't know how to farm because they only plant eucalyptus that grows on its own chat that they need to pick up, and there is nothing else that grows around it. What is happening in Ethiopia with chat and eucalyptus has happened in so many other countries. Yemen is the biggest example. Colombia with cocaine is the biggest example. Why would I plant onions if I can plant cocaine? Obviously, the rate of return is much higher, right? So we have lands and lands where there is no food.
Tell me, when it comes to the international market, as this plays out, what impact do you see this having on the international market with regards to coffee?
Okay, very good question. And I will tell you why. Because I have noticed most international markets that they are only money-making machines, okay? In this case, not that the people that consume coffee are indifferent to the coffee situation, but these big players, they're a bit spoiled, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
In what sense? They also never see the long run. They always see the short run. And why I'm saying that? Philippines was a major producer of planting Liberica variety and exporting it to the U.S. Suddenly, when Philippines got its independence, U.S. stopped importing Philippine coffee, and then farmers stopped planting coffee in Philippines. Did anyone care? No. They found another market.
Right.
Okay? So, Yemen, major producer of coffee in the world, stopped producing coffee, producing chai, and now everybody who is clever enough to start coffee plantations again, or able enough, they are selling this coffee at $90 per kilo. But did you hear anybody saying, oh, we lost Yemen coffee? No. The small people that do care about coffee are so excited to see coffee from Yemen coming back. But did you see anybody panicking about the loss of Yemeni coffee? Harar coffee, the biggest commercialized coffee in the world, in the history of Ethiopia. It was the first commercialized coffee. It was being exported in massive volumes.
Now it's
There
gone.
is no coffee in Harar. It's gone. Did you see anybody crying? No. They moved somewhere else. So this is what happens. They are like a swaths of locusts that when this crop finishes, they go somewhere else. And this is my observation. And that's why I think they don't care because, oh, Ethiopia doesn't exist. Okay, we'll go to Colombia. Or we will go to Rwanda. Or we will go to Uganda. Or you will go to other countries. What is the difference with these other countries and Ethiopia? Well, I can tell you a country that I sincerely admire, with all its drawbacks, of course, because no country is perfect, okay, is Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can see a consistent spirit of policy making.
Mm-hmm.
So in coffee, I have heard from my friend farmers, the president, Kagame, he said, no cheap coffee will be exported from Rwanda anymore. I want Rwanda to be able to produce and sell the best coffee it can. So all the policy is revolving around this. Whilst when you talk to the people here, or when you talk to the middle levels of governance here, they will tell you everything is fantastic. They will tell you, is there a policy in coffee? Yes, there is. Okay, which is the policy to export a lot of coffee? We are the number one. I mean, it's a lot of talk, but no concrete steps to ensure that.
Why?
And there is even
why? Help me understand why.
Yeah, ignorance and short-sightedness. People right now are eating for today and for tomorrow. And they are trying to amass as much as they can today and tomorrow. The day after tomorrow is too far for them to see. And as long as they are making money today and tomorrow, the people that are making money don't care further on. And they say, God knows if after 3 days I will be alive. So why should I care about the long run?
So here is where we have a problem. Because if this was happening just in Ethiopia, we would say, okay, your hypothesis that people will just look somewhere else would work. And that has worked up until now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you couple that with the frost and the drought that is happening in Brazil, the largest producer of coffee, and you couple that with the drought that's happening in Vietnam and in India, and you couple that with the labor crisis that's happening all over the world, but particularly in Latin America, where people are simply just leaving their farms because they can't, it's just become prohibitive to grow coffee, so they're walking to the southern border of the United States. When you put all of this together, and then on top of that, you add, which we haven't even covered, the credit crisis that's going on, the heavily indebted burden across the entire supply chain that I think is the thing that's going to really lead to a collapse in our industry. And on top of that, you look at the price of coffee and people think that it's already too expensive. And then on top of that, you put the cost of living crisis that the consumer is experiencing. I am legitimately concerned about the future of our industry, and I don't understand why the SCA is not having a conversation about this. I don't understand why.
Very one, we are not discussing or taking measures out of it as an industry. Again, it's a very good question. But Lee, let me give you the next example that you're also seeing every day. We have all the data to understand the devastating effects we are having in this planet and how devastating it's for us. You know, people say we need to save the planet. Actually, the planet will survive. Until the sun absorbs the earth, the planet will survive in a different form. The ones that will not survive is us. So we should actually be taking measure to save us.
Right.
Okay? Yet we are not. We are not doing that. Although the data is there to back it. So when you say why we are not doing anything in coffee, because we live day to day. And there is, you know, again, and we touched this briefly. When you go to any of these big events, which are very nice events, I mean, I enjoy them personally to meet my friends and my clients and discuss. 80% of these event floors are covered by machinery and gadgets. 80%. Only 20% is covered by coffee. And this 20% covered by coffee, 80% of it is covered by roasters and importers, because farmers have a very little place in it, as if they don't matter. And nobody remembers that unless these people are there, all these gadgets will be useless.
Well, and that's my big problem is like people seem to be forgetting that if all of this coffee goes away, we don't have an industry.
Exactly, yes.
And you know, I have said before to people who are on the SCA board, I have spoken to people who are at the consuming end of the market, right? Business owners, people who make decisions in boardrooms, etc., etc. I say to them, do you think coffee is going away? And they're like, no, coffee will never go away. There will always be a way. Okay. So if coffee is not going to go away, why then are the producers now the ones that are saying to me, producers all over the world are saying to me, you know what, Lee? Coffee's going away. We don't want to farm it anymore. There are better crops that we can farm. We're clearly not appreciated by people who used to make many, many millions of dollars off what we do. There's no point in us doing it anymore. That's the thing that I can't reconcile.
Correct. Yes. So these are the people that are going to tell you if coffee exists or not.
Right,
Yes.
the people who are growing
And
it.
I am concerned about this too, because, look, yes. So Lee, I went to Rwanda almost, 4 years ago. I was in Rwanda last year and 4 years ago. Over internet with unstable. Can you hear me, Lee?
Yeah.
My
I'm
internet-
fine.
Your image has stuck.
No, that's fine. We can see you. It's fine. Okay, so we just had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we're going to wrap up the episode. Join us for the next episode, folks, the final episode of the series, where we're going to be talking about what we can do about the deforestation in Ethiopia. I am not quite sure what there could be after everything that we've talked about, but I'm sure that Heleanna is going to help us understand the potential of what could be done. I do love how hopeful Heleanna is. And so join us for the last episode. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.